Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Montgomery County Libertarians. And tonight we're going to have a candidates forum, of which I will be the MC. Each candidate will be given 15 minutes to come up and tell us all a little bit about themselves, do, in Toastmaster speak, an icebreaker, if you will. And with this particular moment, it gives me pleasure to introduce our first contestant, Mr. Krawchuk.
Thank you, Mr. Sheets. First of all, I'd like to thank the Libertarian Party of Montgomery County for hosting tonight's forum. What I'd like to do is give you my standard stump speech. This is the speech that I would give if I was going out to a PTA or to a candidates forum or whatever it may be. That way you can find out for yourself what it would be like to see what I would say if I'm out there in the live world. And then after that, I don't think there'll be time, maybe after the Q&A, I'd like to talk about some of the plans for the Libertarian Party, how we're going to be, how I see the campaign unfolding. Does that sound good? Yes. Good. All right, so let me start at the beginning. My name is Krawchuk. I am running for the Libertarian Party nomination for Governor of Pennsylvania. I'm 60 years old. I was born in Philadelphia, North Philadelphia to be precise. Currently live in Abington Township, just a little bit north of Philadelphia. My wife and I have been married for 36 years now, still my first wife. I haven't worn her out yet. We have 3 kids. In fact, our kids pick on us because they say, all of our friends' parents are divorced, second marriages. What's wrong with you guys? We're sticking it out. We have 2 grandchildren so far. The best part of being a parent is when you finally get those grandkids. Professionally, I'm an information technology professional. I've been running my own consulting firm since the 80s. I also hold 3 United States patents related to database theory. So if any geeks in the audience, maybe afterwards we can sit down and compare some notes. My first novel was just released last year, Atlas Snubbed, a parody sequel to Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. And I'm calling it my platform novel because a lot of the ideas that I present in that novel are the same ideas that I'm campaigning on. So I would suggest anybody read it. In fact, I have with me, I have some copies with me. My campaign novel. So, I'm a family man, businessman, inventor, author, but most importantly, I'm a libertarian. Been a libertarian since 1993. I ran for governor against Ed Rendell in 2002 and against Tom Ridge in 1998. It's important to note that I'm a libertarian because we libertarians are different from the 2 old parties because we are the party of principle. Every law we support, every law we oppose can all be traced back to one idea. The idea that your life is yours, that your property is yours, that you have the God-given, inalienable right to live your life your way without interference, provided only you respect the rights and property of your neighbor. That's it. That's what it means to be a libertarian. Your life, your way. It's the golden rule on a political level. And the public has reacted very favorably to this message. Since our founding in 1971, the Libertarian Party has grown to become the 3rd largest party by every measure. We have more registered voters than all the other 3rd parties put together. We currently have about 150 office holders nationwide, elected or appointed, and there are about 40 of those here in Pennsylvania. And again, that's more than all the other 3rd parties put together. I refer to the Libertarian Party as the 800-pound chihuahua of politics. Now, what can you expect from a governor candidate, a libertarian candidate? Well, obviously, when I'm elected governor, you're going to find somebody who's going to respect your right to live your life your way. Now, in terms of specific policies, what I've done as I've been traveling the state, I've been hearing from voters, and there are 3 top issues. For some reason, you got to have 3 issues. You can't have 2, you can't have 4, it's got to be 3. Of course, the number 1 issue that I hear about all the time is taxes. Who thinks taxes are too low? Yeah, right. There's one in every crowd. Thanks, Ed. No, taxes are high, and they're getting higher. Why are taxes so high? Because spending is high. Why is spending high? Because they're spending money on unconstitutional programs, giveaway programs, feel-good programs. All these things are breaking the bank. In fact, over the last 50 years, the cost of government in Pennsylvania has been rising at more than 3 times the rate of inflation for the last 50 years. When I ran for governor back in 2002, I stood up and said, you know, for the last 40 years, the cost of government in Pennsylvania has been rising 3.5 times faster than the rate of inflation. And here it is, 12 years later, nothing has changed. It doesn't matter if it's a Democrat in office. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican in the office. It doesn't matter if it's a low inflation days or during the Carter era where we had hyperinflation. The size of government is always bigger. Excuse me. Well, when I'm governor, that trend will end. I'm promising to veto every single tax increase. We're going to hold the line on tax increases. For them to get any kind of tax increase past me, they would have to get a supermajority to override my veto. And not only that, as governor of Pennsylvania, I have here my job description, the Constitution for Pennsylvania. It gives the governor all sorts of cool unilateral powers, not just the veto, but the line item veto. So I can go through the budget and cross out things like that unconstitutional state registry of firearms, the milk marketing board, everything that's outside the Constitution, anything that's pork, I get to veto. And again, it's going to take a supermajority to try and override that veto. So I'll be able to hold the line on spending and cut taxes. And in fact, it's my goal to eliminate, over the course of 4 years, the Pennsylvania personal income tax. So that's the first big issue, taxes. The second big issue I hear is crime. The Commonwealth Foundation in Harrisburg did a study, and they found that 95% of all crimes are committed by only 5% of all criminals. Well, my job description gives me a power that I can attack that, because as governor, I have the power over parole. And what I will do on day one when I get into office is eliminate parole for violent criminals. It's insane to let these guys out of jail, especially after we finally get them into our convoluted criminal justice system. Since 95% of crimes are committed by only 5% of the criminals, we are guaranteed to reduce crime. Now, a lot of times when I say that, people say, oh, Ken, what are you going to do? Triple the size of the prisons? Where are you going to put all these guys? You don't have to do that. In fact, we can close a lot of the prisons because there are a lot of people in prison currently right now who do not belong there. And the largest group, pot smokers. How many think that a pot smoker belongs in prison?
No way.
Absolutely no way. And it costs $35,000, $40,000 a year to keep that pot smoker in jail. Right now, prisons are so crowded that they're instituting caps. They're saying you can only have so many prisoners in your prisons because they just don't have room for them. In fact, these caps are becoming so onerous, especially here in Philadelphia, that it's finally reached the point where they're releasing murderers and rapists to make room for pot-smoking Grateful Dead fans. That's insane! One of the powers that I have as governor, granted to me by the Constitution, is the power of the pardon. To relieve the strain on our prisons and to do the right thing, on day one, I will pardon every single non-violent drug offender. Now, if they robbed somebody or dumped drugs to kids or something like that, they're going to stay in jail. But if it was just some kid leaning back smoking on a joint or somebody doing a line, they have a get-out-of-jail-free card from this governor. So that's my plan to address crime. The third issue, and some people would say maybe it should be the second issue because it's very important, and that is education. Of course, education, we know in Pennsylvania, government education is a mess. It's a big mess. One of the reasons why is because 95% of our kids all go to the same school system in Pennsylvania, the government school system. It's a virtual monopoly. And like all monopolies, costs are high, choice is low, and the quality is not always the best. What I'd like to do is end that monopoly. And the best way to do it is to bring in competition. Now, there are all sorts of ways to do competition, but the way that I would like to do it is to bring into the equation somebody who's been left out for the longest time, and that are the parents. What I would like to do specifically is that the parents can choose any government school for their child, and the funding that would have gone to the local school will follow the child to the school of the parent's choice. That way, good schools get more money and grow, and the poor schools are put on notice by the declining enrollment that they better do something right or they're going to get closed. Now, notice how this improves education without spending another dime. Because the good schools get more funding. The bad schools, they'll wind up closing. And it's not better, in my opinion, not better in the unelected Board of Education in Harrisburg's opinion, not some outside the state Common Core curriculum's opinion. It's the parents' opinion. They're the ones who matter the most. A lot of times when I mention that, people say, oh, come on, Ken, what are you going to do? You're going to close down my neighborhood school? Well, no and yes. Because once your local school closes because it's not getting enough funding, well, this school that's getting all the funding, they don't have room for all the students. So this good school can take over control of the local school. And the same techniques that they're using, which draw so many people to their school, they can use those same techniques locally. So the quality of your local school will go up as well. That's my prime plan for education. Bring in parents, introduce competition, so that parents decide, not bureaucrats. Now, of course, any transportation issues, the parents would have to take care of that themselves. So if somebody in Philadelphia picked a school in Erie, they're the ones who are going to have to drive the kid back and forth, not the taxpayers. Now, there are other plans that I have for education, and they're important enough that I thought I would mention them. These may require a little bit of constitutional changes, but let me go through them anyway. First one is to start the process of privatizing the schools. I got on the net a couple weeks ago on the internet, and I was looking at local schools in Abington Township, private schools, and I found that they were charging $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year for education. Some of the exclusive schools, like the Friends School, Germantown Academy, places like that, were charging about $20,000 a year. Now, ignoring the $20,000 a year exclusive schools, I found that the average cost of a private education in Abington, the Abington area, is about $9,000. If you sent your kid to the Abington School District, do you know how much the Abington School District pays per child to educate a kid? I took their enrollment, divided it by the total budget, and I got the number of over $18,000. If our school board, our local school board, instead of running their own Taj Mahals, if instead they placed the kids in local private schools, we could cut property taxes in half overnight. That's a good start. So we have the first one, I call it low, medium, and high. Low, let parents decide the school, introduce competition. Medium, have the school boards close their Taj Mahals and place the kids locally, cut property taxes in half. And then high, where we can eliminate property taxes entirely. And the way I would do that, I call it the great offer. Great offer is, if you educate your own children, you will never have to pay property tax again. That's the way it works. Yes, it's expensive, but right now, you're paying high property taxes year after year after year. You may have to take out a second mortgage to pay for your children's education. But once that mortgage is paid off, you'd be done. Instead of when you're 40, you're still paying off taxes. 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, you're still paying those property taxes. Now, I tell this to childless couples, they love it because they're paying for a service they don't directly use. I tell it to seniors, they love it because, again, they're not paying for a service they don't use. I tell it to couples that already have their children in private schools. They love it because they're paying twice, once to their taxes and once directly to the school. I even tell it to people who have children in the school system. They like it too because it will improve the quality of their education because they're not sending them to these government schools that are failing anymore. So it's a win-win-win-win-win scenario. Kids too. Win-win-win-win-win-win scenario. So they're the ones, low, medium, and high. Introduce competition. Privatize the schools partially by having the school boards place them locally, or the great offer and eliminate property taxes completely. So there it is. There are the three big issues. What I typically do at this point is I open up the floor to questions, and I see that I'm about 2 minutes under my 15-minute limit. So let me just add a little bit about the campaign. The way I see the campaign going is in 3 segments. First segment is what we're in right now, prior to the nomination. The nomination of our candidates will happen at our state party convention in Bethlehem on February 22nd. So up until then, what I'm doing is I'm visiting all the local libertarian organizations, which is why I'm here tonight, and letting them know what I have planned for the party. Once the decision is made, the end of February, comes the second part, which is the least fun part, which is the petition drive. We need to collect 16,639 signatures, minimum, to get our statewide candidates on the ballot this year. And the way I plan to do that is to do an all-out push on the best possible day to get signatures, and that's primary day. As people are coming out in the polling place, excuse me, can I ask you to sign a petition to get the Libertarian Party candidates on the ballot? Would you support democracy in your neighborhood and sign? Typically I find, I've been doing this for years, and I find that roughly 1/3 of the people coming out will sign. In 1994, my first race, I had maybe a dozen people out, half dozen to a dozen people out, and in one day, we collected 1,000 signatures, over 1,000 signatures, just in Abington Township. So if we do this statewide, we can get all of our signatures in one day. We just have to take what I did in one township and duplicate it 20 times, 30 times, which shouldn't be a big deal to do. And that way, come May 20th, we'll be done. So be sure to tell your boss, May 20th, primary day, you're not going to be in work, because you're going to be out at the polls getting signatures. Then once we're on the ballot, then comes the fun part. Part 3, which is when you start getting invited to debates, forums, and things like that, which is, by the way, has already happened. I've been getting my name out on various websites, and I just got invited again today by the Pennsylvania Parkside Business Bureau or something like that to their candidates forum in March. I've also been invited to the Committee of 70 in Philadelphia. They're having a candidates forum in April. So they're now starting to roll in. So this fun stuff is starting to begin. So there it is, 3 parts. Part 1, what we're doing right now, picking our candidate. Part 2, waiting for primary day to get the signatures. Part 3, the fun begins. With that, that concludes what I had to say. Just want to add one final thing, that for the people of Pennsylvania, if they keep on voting the way they've been voting, they're going to keep on getting just what they've been getting. And I don't know about you, but I have had enough. Mr. Chair. Here, I'll leave the job description up here for you.
Okay. No, me.
New to our little group,
Oh, boy.
and I believe new to the Libertarian Party, a man who is completely fed up with the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, that generally the party establishment. Allow me to introduce to you Jonathan Jewell. Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, I'm going to address the elephant in the room right now. I'm not so much of a speech guy. Never was. So I'm not a great orator, but kudos to you. That was really good.
Thank you.
A little bit about me. Today is my birthday as well. So you and I share the same birthday. I'm 43 years old, so be careful. Don't squeeze my hand too hard, it might fall off. I am, what is it, twice married, once divorced. This is my lovely wife here, together for 5 years. And I have 1 son, I have 1 dog, 1 cat, several fish, live in far northeast Philadelphia. So that's basically about it about me. Why I'm running? I'm kind of a tell it like it is, bottom line kind of guy, and I know I'm not going to take up 15 minutes, so I apologize for this right off the get-go. 3 things that I've noticed, or the people I spoke with, the top 3 things that I've witnessed, or again, the main concern of all the people I talk to, have been jobs. Number 1 is jobs. People want jobs, people are looking for jobs. The only jobs that they can find are minimum wage jobs, and so that is their main concern. They They can't earn a paycheck, they can't feed their families, they can't go to different places, they can't go anywhere. The other thing that I've spoken with people is taxes. And being Pennsylvania is the 10th state in the union with the highest tax rate, that's something that people want to address. Now with Corbett, with the just raising taxes again for the roads and the highways, I think a lot of people are just pulling their hair out here, just trying to figure out what to do. And the other issue is the cutting of social programs and social, welfare, and education. Corbett again has gutted these things, and he has allocated $685 million towards new prisons. Going to what the previous person said, I totally agree with these drug laws. I think they're ridiculous. I think they need to be reformed, especially with adults that are using these drugs as personal use, or they're carrying on their person. I'm not talking about drug dealers, I'm just talking about people using drugs in general. I think there needs to be a moratorium, and there needs to be some type of blanket amnesty for these folks to clear out the prisons. But $685 million allocated for prisons this year is ridiculous. And where is this money going? And the thing is, are we in the prison business all of a sudden? Are we, is this privatized? Because most of the prisons in Pennsylvania are privatized. So is the end game, it's going to sell these off to private individuals using the tax dollars? That's my concern. Hopefully it's your concern as well. But going back to the previous thing, I have a number of ideas to bring jobs into the region. Number one is I believe, being the infrastructure that we have right now, we can be a manufacturing power base. I think Pennsylvania used to be the top manufacturing state in the union. I believe we can do that now, and I think we have the resources to do it. It's just a matter of having an individual push legislation through to get it done. The other flip side of that with creating jobs is I think we can be the #1 energy producer in the state. The one thing that's massively overlooked, and it's worked really well overseas, is biogas. And again, we have the resources and the infrastructure to actually incorporate biogas production in the state of Pennsylvania. Now you may hear about this fracking issue that's going on. It's definitely poisoning the environment. And what people are not seeing here is that you're going to have both the Schuylkill and the Delaware River, that's mostly our water resources, it's going to be poisoned. And people's hair is going to start falling out. And I don't know if you guys seen the video with the guy lighting the water on fire. That's methane gas that's being leached into our water supply. That's a #1 concern, I think, and it needs to be out there more. I know that a lot of people, a lot of organizations are fighting against this, but we need an advocate in office to address this issue, because right now, they have free rein in Pennsylvania. We're the only state that doesn't tax these fracking companies that come into the state. And so it's a free-for-all, and it's being allowed to happen, and it's got to stop. Before, what I say is, can you eat or drink money? And what I mean by that is, yeah, it may produce a job, however, what's the cost of that? I mean, to our health, our children's health, or, down the line, our grandkids. So, jobs are #1 concern from what I've heard from the people I spoke with. #2 is the taxes. #3 is these ridiculous programs that he's already put in place. Again, slashing the budget, slashing social welfare programs, and allocating massive amounts of money for new prisons. That needs to be overturned. And I think to gain the trust of the people, we need to address these concerns head on, and we need to let them know that we care. Because I know I care. I know I give a damn, and that's why I was running, and that's why I put my hat in the ring, and I'm just plain pissed off. I'm sorry if I'm allowed to say that. Now, I was having an identity crisis because I am fiscally responsible, but I do care about the human element. So I do believe that there should be some type of social programs that need to be in place. There needs to be some type of safety net for folks, because you know what? Life kicks you in the teeth sometimes, and I can't talk because now I'm getting dry. Is there still refreshment back there? No? Okay. I started chewing going over here. Anyway. So, huh? Yo,
$5.
$5. What is the link?
Don't pay any attention to
Okay.
him.
This is the link. So that's, where did I leave? Where did I leave? I'm sorry. Okay.
Safety
So-
net.
Huh?
Safety net.
The safety net, thank you. So, and I've always had and that's where I fell into the Libertarian Party and why I like this platform. Not like it, I fell in love with the platform, honestly. Thank you very much. You are fantastic. Like I said, I'm not a great speaker, so I don't know how to control myself. So, there needs to be a balance. And I think to gain the trust of the people of Pennsylvania, because here's another thing I'm hearing is that nobody wants to vote for anybody because they don't think it's going to change. And I think we need to present a platform where it's change they can believe in. Because right now, nobody believes anything anybody says. I mean, you have your speeches, and you go to these forums, and you go to these debates. Like, I, for one, I don't know if this is going to kick me out or not, but I don't believe in the debates. I think it's ridiculous because what they do is they use your sound bites or anything that you use, and they're going to put it against you. I think what we need is to run a close to the vest, intelligent campaign where we go directly to the people. We don't need, these debates and forums and, who bested this guy, who bested that guy, because people are sick of it. They don't want it. They need something to believe in. And I think what we, and again, I think we need to address the real issues that are going on right now. I think we need to, to say, listen, we do give a damn. We do care about this stuff. And I am the person to do that, at least me personally. And I've talked to people, again, this is before I knew Ken was even running, because I looked at the previous election, I didn't see any Libertarians, so I figured, okay, I'm going to put my plan in place. So I've been doing this for over a year. I've been talking to people in different communities. I've been talking to people in the Latino community, the Black community, the Asian community, just to see what their feelings are too. I don't want to be this guy sitting up here saying, okay, well, this is what you need to, this is what you need to be concerned with, or this is what I think you need to be concerned with. What are you concerned with? Like, what, tell me what's going on with you and your family and your community, and how laws are going to affect you. And I think if we have a common sense approach to, again, running this campaign, to addressing the issues that are concerning people, I think we're going to get a hell of a lot more votes than we did previously. Like, my personal goal, and I know this may sound out there, my personal goal when I first started this was to have 2.2 million votes. And I know that might seem unrealistic, but again, if we don't have a goal to hit, then what's the point even running? Because to hit 2.2, we will win this election. My goal for the signatures, when I heard about 17, I want to make it 30,000. And I know, it's difficult to get signatures, but again, I'm working with these individuals, these groups of individuals, that when I talk to them, I'm like, listen, I need you to tell 5 people. If you believe in what I'm saying, and you can hear my words, and you hear my thoughts, and I'm speaking from the heart here, I need you to tell 5 other people about me. And send me an email. If you have a question, send me an email. I send it back to you, and I interact that way. So that's basically my game plan. My game plan was a multi-pronged approach through social media, through different community people that are involved in the community. Not this so-called preacher over here or this person over here that says they're involved. I'm talking people that people respect. And when I talk to them, well, who do you talk to or who do you look up to? And that's kind of how I went about it this past year. But that's basically what I said. I'm kind of a tell it like it is kind of guy. I'm not a great speaker. I like to present the facts. I like to research things. And that's what I'm all about. So thank you very much for your time. Hope I didn't embarrass anybody or myself, but thank you. Oh, and there's the rule book back there. And I did read through it.
Okay, at this particular time, I'd like to invite both candidates up to the front of the room, whereby you will be grilled.
Oh, great.
I'd like my medium rare, please.
Fair enough.
Yes.
It's a question for both candidates.
how will you apply the non-aggression principle to any position that may come up during the campaign?
Right. Before we answer the question, we should probably, you go first, then I go first, and you go first, and I go first, and we just alternate back and forth.
Okay,
Since I spoke first before, you can speak first to this one.
sounds good. The non-aggression, again, I'm new to this party, the non-aggression, what's it called?
Principle.
Principle. What I've read about it, what I know about it is it was basically, so we didn't come across, when I say we as a Libertarian Party, we didn't come across as a radical group that was going to set bombs off, because this was back in '72, I think this was created?
71,
Yep, 71, okay. So I understand the reasoning why it was done, and I understand that principle. How it's being used now, there's different interpretations from what I read about a lot of different people. There's extreme interpretations, and there's, okay, well, we're not going to hurt this person, or we're not going to go this far. In what reference are you speaking about?
Well, what is your, if you say there's different views on that, what is your view? And how would that shape your positions?
Well, I'm not going to set any bombs, for one.
Okay.
I'm not going to blow anybody up. You know, even right now, there's some type of aggression because we're both vying for a position. So in the strictest sense, neither of us should be up here. But as far as my interpretation of it, if there's no backstabbing, there's no directly assaulting the character of the incumbent, which would be Corbett. If anything, I would attack him on his record and what he's doing now, especially the things I don't agree with, and especially if they do not benefit the people of Pennsylvania. So that is my interpretation of it. I wouldn't attack somebody's character or get in any type of mudslinging politics. I'd stay true to my form. There's really no background for me, so they can't say, well, you didn't do this or you didn't do that, which I have an advantage of. But as far as going after some individual, I wouldn't do it personally. It would only be in an official capacity, like with what their record is. That's me.
Thank you. You have the God-given, inalienable right to live your life your way without interference, provided only you respect the rights and property of others. That's what it means to be a libertarian. That is the core non-aggression principle. I won't force you to do anything. The only way we come to any kind of an agreement to do something is if we come to a mutually agreeable set of terms. That's not only true when it comes to dealing one-on-one, but it's also true with how the government deals with us. So if they're saying, you can't smoke that weed, they're initiating use of force by throwing you in jail. If they're forcing you to pay for all of these feel-good programs, these giveaway programs, which, by the way, make up 80% of Pennsylvania's budget, if they're forcing you to pay for their whims, that's a violation of the non-aggression principle. Some of you may remember when I ran in 2002, I stood up on national television and I said the same thing I'm saying now. You have the right to live your life your way as long as you respect that right in others. That's what liberty is all about. And I've given several good examples in my opening speech. I can give several more. To answer your question? Okay. If I can jump in, Mr. Moderator, if you can limit our answers to 2 minutes apiece, just start waving at us when we hit 2 minutes. That way we can get more answers in.
Fair enough.
I have a question. Did my answer your question or no?
Not really, no.
Okay. I need some feedback. That's good.
Well,
I interpret it as as far as the campaign, I didn't know as an individual.
Well, what I meant is in terms of your, in terms of positions. During a campaign, you're going to be like, well, what's your view on X? You don't know in advance what it's going to be. But what I'm looking for in a candidate is somebody that I know has a founding principle. So I'm not wondering, like, when issue X, Y, or Z comes up, I'm just, what's the guiding principle that I can count on that candidate to rely upon to answer the question? So, for instance, the non-aggression principle being our core principle.
Right.
We're just wondering, like, how you might apply that. Well, what's your view on the milk marketing board? Okay, it could come up. What's your view on, forced vaccination? Like these things are going to come up all the time. So I just thought, you know, maybe there's anything you'd like to add to that or to clarify.
My thing is, if it's not a direct benefit of the people of Pennsylvania, then I'm not for it. If it is a direct benefit to the people of Pennsylvania, I'm for it. So whatever the law is, if it's not a direct benefit of the people of Pennsylvania.
So like, for instance, going over to Jersey and stealing everything they got for Pennsylvania, you'd be for.
But how's that a benefit to the people?
Well, we get all their stuff.
Well, I think it's a ridiculous question.
Yeah.
Well, why would somebody ask that?
Well, I'm just,
I wouldn't even honor that with an answer.
okay.
I mean, you know, I'm not saying, I just, you know, if somebody's serious about a candidate and they're serious about the issues, why would they even ask that type of question?
Well, I'm just trying to find out what your core position, you know, what your core principles are.
Again, I'm just trying to figure it out.
If I could just jump in, during the 2002 campaign, the Monica Lewinsky thing was going on, and there's always some joker in the audience, hi Jim, who asks you a question like that, and the guy says, yeah, I got a question for you. Do you cheat on your wife? And I looked at him and I said, not yet, what do you have in mind?
Yeah, who's in the back? But yeah.
But you're going to hear crazy questions.
Well, yeah, but in that context, I was just like, okay.
All right.
All right, so
Next
you
question.
threw me on that one.
I'd like to comment, though, that people respected the fact that you had some research in history that you had done on the Libertarian Party. You knew a few things, and I respected you for that. So it showed that you were taking this seriously, though you had not yet become a Libertarian.
Thank you.
But it was a good point.
I appreciate that.
I have a question.
No,
I can't see you. My favorite, how do you feel about the legalization or not of medical marijuana and recreational marijuana? And I prefer to call it cannabis.
Thank you. I guess I go first for this one. I'm sorry if I have to repeat myself, but you have the God-given and inalienable right to live your life your way, provided you respect the rights and property of others. How does you sitting in your living room blowing off a joint, how does that harm anyone? Not even the person doing the smoking. So I would not have the police kick down your door. As governor, I command the state police. I will tell them, don't enforce the marijuana laws while we're working to go through the entire process to legalize it, to decriminalize it. I would like to see marijuana treated the same way, or cannabis, thank you. I'd like to see cannabis treated the same way as alcohol. Start off, same kind of restrictions. Can't give it to kids. If people don't want you drinking it in their house, you don't have to. Just common sense things, just as we do now with alcohol. And I would not differentiate between medical and recreational, because you have God-given, inalienable, da-da-da-da-da-da. So I would lobby for it, I would push for it. I was just in Washington State to see my eldest daughter, and I went in and I said, when you do bar saying, well, they said, the regulatory pieces aren't there yet. Because it's been a long time since college for me, and I would like to give it another shot. Thank you.
Ken,
Yes?
can I clarify something in your answer, please?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So you said you would like marijuana to be treated like alcohol.
Correct.
So you're in favor of a government body like the
No.
Pennsylvania LCB?
No, you did not ask how I would treat alcohol.
Well then,
And I just gave
this is why I'm asking about a clarification, because that's what it sounds like.
Correct, no.
Yeah, better clarify that.
And I already did. I said, you can't be giving it to kids.
Okay.
What if the parents say it's okay?
Well, that's a good question. There's two ways of looking at that. Whenever it comes to any decision regarding kids, you can either have the government decide how the kids are going to be raised, or you can have the parents decide how the kids are going to be raised. I would always come down on the side of the parents. As long as they're not harming the children, then that's fine. Now, if there are some studies that show that marijuana is harmful to kids, then by all means, it's just like giving the kid, I don't know, cigarettes or something like that. If it's harmful to the kids, then they shouldn't be doing that. And we could move against them. But only where there's a demonstrated harm. Good follow-up. Thank you. No, I do not support the state sewer system.
Fair enough.
I just want to keep drugs out of it.
Jonathan?
Okay, let me gather my thoughts. Cannabis, I don't think it should be criminalized. I think it should be decriminalized immediately. However, to incorporate it in such a way where it's palatable to the people, because I think there's still a lot of people that have been socially engineered to not to say no to drugs, or to think it's something bad, or it's a gateway drug for this and a gateway drug for that. I think what we should do is not reinvent the wheel, but follow the other states like Colorado, Jersey, California, how they introduced it as a medical marijuana or cannabis, and from there, once we have that foothold in place, and we bring some education programs to people, that it's not a bad thing. It's, you know, it's quite a good thing. You know, I'm not a user of such, but you know, I don't fault anybody for using it because I think it's great. I mean, you don't hear about car crashes for people using marijuana or cannabis, or bar fights or things of that nature. We spent over $1 trillion for the last 15 years on this war on drugs, and it's gotten us nowhere. Matter of fact, drugs come in this country more than anything else. Marijuana or cannabis can be locally grown. It's not a bad thing. I don't agree with the laws, and I think that again, not reinvent the wheel, but do what the other states have done, kind of roll it out that way, and then once that's in place, use it as a broader spectrum to reduce the laws, you know, to next to nothing.
Paul Rizzo.
First of all, I'd like to thank both of you guys for coming out and speaking to us. My question is, since you're running for governor, what is your views on the Department of Labor, Department of Revenue, and how would you address those departments?
I believe you're first this time.
Okay. In what context?
I feel that they are pretty intrusive on small business, and I would like to see them downsized, if not eliminated. But I mean, that's just, you know, the libertarian in me.
Well, my view of it is I'm a small business owner. I didn't even do that in my beginnings. I'm sorry about that. I know what it's like to run a small business. I know what the obstacles are. I know how heavily I get taxed, and it seems like the more I grow, the more I get taxed. What I would like to do with that type of organization or that type of department is maybe use it for the good of the people of Pennsylvania rather than get rid of it altogether, where we can set up, just like the SBA does. The SBA is the federal arm. I'd like to do something on a state level where we would have these incubators, and it would basically show people like what to do, work out business plans, maybe provide some seed money that they normally couldn't get, because we spent over 8 months trying to get a loan. And we fell in all the guidelines to get the loan. However, the banks didn't want to take a chance on us because, number one, we were a niche business. We renovate mobile homes. We're the only company on the East Coast that does it. So nobody wanted to take a chance, even though we fell into the guidelines. The reasoning was that, even though it was federally insured, they didn't care. They were like, we don't want to take a chance anyway. So I think if the state, being that, again, the number one concern being jobs, I think that would be a fantastic opportunity for other people to even have an inkling for a small business or existing small businesses that they can lean on us to maybe grow their business so they can provide more jobs for the people of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Let me take that 2 pieces at a time. First of all, let's look at the Department of Revenue. I've already said that it's my plan to reduce the Pennsylvania personal income tax over the course of 4 years and eliminate it entirely. There'll be less work for the Department of Revenue to do, so by definition, they're going to be able to be downsized. Once we get through that reduction, then we can start looking at lowering other taxes, the business tax, Johnstown emergency alcohol tax, all those other taxes, and one by one, we can pull them out and replace them. And let me come back to that. I just want to make sure I got both parts of your question answered before Steve starts waving at me. The Department of Labor. I've gone through my job description, and I don't see where the Commonwealth has any authority over labor at all. Certainly, you can have a contract between an individual and a company, between a union and a company, and the sanctity of the contract is absolute. As governor, I'm not allowed to touch that. You can come to whatever ruling, whatever agreement that you want between them. How you could take a department of the government and introduce them into that sort of a discussion, I don't see how it can be done legally. So I would eliminate the Department of Labor. Let me come back to the Department of Revenue. There are a lot of people dependent upon the money that's coming into the state right now. As I said, 80% of the budget is giveaway programs. What I'd like to do is end that dependency on the government. And not by just saying, oh, let's cut out PACE, oh, let's cut out education. No, 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 no. What I'd like to do is take these features, which rightfully belong to society. Right now, they're currently with the state. I would like to pull them away from the state. The way I phrase it is I'm looking to do the separation of society and the state. So all these societal duties, like retirement plans, drugs for the elderly, whatever it may be, even street lights, traffic lights, education, all these things should be done properly by society. And that is the theme of my novel, which is why I mentioned this is my platform novel, is the separation of society and state. What I'm proposing is we create a new entity, which I call society. Steve's telling me I can't talk about it right now. But separation of society and state, when I get some time in there later on, I will jump in there. If I could get a quick question in, you mentioned before about legislation for jobs to bring manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
Under what provision of the Constitution does it allow you to do that? Because there's nothing in here to allow for any kind of a jobs program. There's nothing here that gives the Commonwealth any authority over manufacturing other than taxation. And I was just wondering, since you'd be swearing an oath to uphold this, I was wondering how you were going to,
Again, my concern is the people of Pennsylvania.
even if you violate your oath to do it.
Oh, hold up, gentlemen. Ken, it was not your turn, actually. It was
Oh.
Actually, your turn.
All right, I'm going to try to weave everything together here, non-aggression principle, the role of government, and read a quote by someone and then have you tell me how you feel about this. All right? This is Penn Jillette. It's amazing how many people think that voting to have a government give poor people money is compassion. Helping poor and suffering people is compassion. Voting for your government to use guns to give money to poor people and poor and suffering people is a moral, self-righteous, bullying laziness. People need to be fed, medicated, educated, clothed, and sheltered, and if we have compassion, we'll help them. But you get no great moral credit for forcing people to do what you think is right. There is great joy in helping people. There is no joy in doing it at gunpoint. So when any time government is giving some sort of subsidy to individuals to help them along, or to a business to recruit it here, that is money that's been stolen from other people at gunpoint. The fact of the matter is you don't pay your taxes, a man in a black robe will send guys in blue costumes and badges to your house to put you in a cage until you pay. So using your ethics and your morality, how do you feel about government taking money from people and using it for things those people don't believe in?
Who's first?
I can go first. I think I understand the question here. I think, if I'm way off base, I'm sorry.
Well, you had said earlier that you support programs to get people back to work, you support programs to help grow businesses.
Right.
All those programs are funded with stolen money, money that's stolen from other taxpayers.
How's that?
Well, think about it. Where does the money come from?
It comes
If you don't pay your taxes, what happens? A guy in a black robe sends a man to your house with a gun and a badge to put you in a cage until you pay. That's aggression.
All right.
So what I'm asking is, if you're supporting programs to help people,
Well, still,
that the
still
government
a
helping,
word.
but helping businesses, you had mentioned that you couldn't get a small business loan because of the business you were in.
Right.
Well, that's a business decision if that bank wants to underwrite that loan or not.
Right.
Why should a government even be involved?
Here's the thing. I understand the strictest sense, maybe this isn't the party for me. But if this is a libertarian mindset, you guys are never going to get elected because you have to help people. You have to get yourself in there and help people because here's the thing. There's going to be no jobs. They're drying up. And you're not stealing money. It's a tax base. If you're using that money for good, it's not being stolen. It's being pumped back into the economy so these people who weren't working now become taxpayers.
Let me draw you a picture. I worked from the time I was in high school in Norristown, right?
Right.
I worked a part-time job while I paid my way through Drexel. I commuted every day down to Drexel. I paid taxes, an inordinate amount of taxes because I was a high, triple, 6-digit wage earner.
Okay.
I got laid off. I got a severance package at the beginning of 2012. I could not qualify for unemployment because my severance package was over $17,000 and change because the state decided that if I got laid off before this date, I could get unemployment, but because I got a severance package, I can't. So here's a program that I paid into from 1986 until 2012.
Right?
And I disproportionately funded other people's benefits. Yet when it was my time of need, fuck you, you got a severance package. How does that work?
Well, obviously, that's the administration, and they set up a guideline where it screwed you over.
Okay.
So you're using your personal experience
I'm using
to screw up the whole thing for the state of Pennsylvania?
No, what I'm saying is that you
I
said.
mean, I understand what you got, I understand you got
guys didn't wanna give
shafted
me a
because
loan.
I got shafted too.
Yeah, but how many people, how fair is it? How many people did I fund? If you're gonna say, okay, we're gonna do these programs, and I don't agree with the programs.
Well, you need to figure out what exactly that program was, or what exactly that legislation is, and then that needs to be fixed, because obviously it's not fair to you. You did pay into it.
Okay.
You did.
I wish
pay
I could
into it.
opt out and not pay into it. I mean, I had plenty of money in the bank to take care of myself. That's the biggest problem is, you've got these, kids going through 13 years of government indoctrination to be dependent upon the state.
Mr. Moderator,
Sorry.
could you limit the questions to 2 minutes too?
Fair enough.
All right.
Do you have
So,
anything else you want to add?
No, I disagree with the stealing part. I don't think it's stolen. I think, again, if you're creating jobs, you're creating a bigger tax base so those people can pay
Let's
money
make
back
it
into
easier
the
then.
system.
Is eminent domain stealing?
Huh?
Eminent domain? Is eminent domain stealing?
Oh, hell yeah. I'm not for eminent domain.
Okay, so
Because
if
basically
somebody
you're
else
taking
trying
land
to
and
take
giving it
your
to a
house.
developer.
Over your 2 minutes.
All right, fine.
I'm going to play moderator now.
no, you're not. You're
All
gonna
right,
answer the question.
let me address the question, which fits in with what I was saying before. Let me start off, taxation is theft. They're holding a gun to my head, taking my money for what they think is important. I think you should keep your money and spend it on what you think is important. And the way I would handle this, as I said, we can't just say, no more PACE program, no more whatever, no more free education, no more free milk marketing board, or whatever it may be. Instead, what I would do is I would separate society and state and take these various tasks, which are societal tasks, and assign them to society. And when I say society, I don't mean just us or anything like that. I'm talking about an actual organization. On the national level, it would follow the Constitution for the United States. So there would be a president of society, a Congress of society. On the state level, there would be a governor of society, and again, state house of society and state senate of society. Locally, there would be a mayor of society, town council of society. Look exactly the same, follow the same playbook, except for one crucial difference. Society does not have the coercive power of taxation, or for that matter, any coercive powers. So society could pass a jobs program. Society could pass drugs for seniors. Society could pass, I call them guidelines, not laws, because they have no force of law, they're just guidelines. They could pass a guideline about education. And that would come out to some sort of a budget. They would need $1 billion. What they would do at that point is go to the people of Pennsylvania and ask for the money. Americans are the most generous people in the world. Definitely people would give the money that they would want. And we could fund these things. But if there's not enough money to go around, we've got to tighten our belts. What happens now is they send in the guys with the guns and say, well, let's take more of your money, more of your money. It's been growing at 3.5 times the rate of inflation for over 50 years. It's time we stop that. If we separate society and state, we can get all of 80% of the state budget into a voluntary society where people can decide whether or not they want to contribute. That way, you have your safety net without holding a gun to somebody's head. Your seniors will get the drugs they need without holding a gun to somebody's head. People who are in need of hospitalization will get the help they need without holding a gun to somebody's head. With this entitlement program, all these entitlement programs, they would shift over. And that way we'd shrink the size of Pennsylvania government, what's that, to 20% of what it was, and that's just the starting point. And that, just to remind you, is the theme of my novel, Separation of Society and State. As fiction, it presents a workable solution.
Okay, real quick. We have some other business to get to, so I'm going to have one more question for you guys.
Who hasn't asked a question yet? Richard?
I have. My question was going to be eminent domain.
Huh.
What would be your answer as the gubernatorial candidate for eminent domain?
So I go first this time. Eminent domain is theft. I think we've already agreed on that. And if there's any funding involved at the state level, I've got my line item veto, so if they're gonna wanna try and steal somebody else's property, they're not gonna be able to do it on my watch. As a lot of you know, a couple of years ago in Abington Township, the township tried to steal a little old lady's property. And of course, we Libertarians, Montgomery County Libertarians, and a lot of other people came to the fore on that. And what we did is we held a huge demonstration, a roving demonstration. 75 people went from house to house to house of the 8 commissioners who voted in favor of that awful stealing. And we got them to change their minds. So I would continue that. I see no reason to go on with that. But everybody knows I despise eminent domain. In fact, I've had an article written in the Philadelphia Inquirer where I was championing not using eminent domain for open space. Jonathan?
Totally against it. That's my answer.
Short and sweet.
Fair enough. Ken?
Just maybe one more question. I'm interested in what yardstick you would use to measure the success of your campaign. You mentioned 2.2 million votes. Ken, I'm wondering maybe how many books do you need to sell to make this campaign a success?
I've already achieved my goal on that.
So one
No.
more.
My goal. No,
I think
me back
Jonathan
up.
gets to go first this time.
No.
No?
I thought.
Oh, no,
No,
you're right.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What is the yardstick to measure the success of the campaign?
The yardstick for me personally, the yardstick is if I believe, which I believe I can do, get the hearts and minds of the people of Pennsylvania to see that there can be a real difference, a real change. It's not the same old crap, Democrats and Republicans. It's not going to be the same person in office, but once they get in office, they're going to forget about the people who put them there. My yardstick is that, again, my goal was 2.2 million, and if I know I have 2.2 million votes, then I know I have the hearts and minds of the people of Pennsylvania. That's my yardstick.
When I ran in 1998 against Tom Ridge, I got 33,000 votes, thereabouts. I was the first Libertarian candidate in Pennsylvania for governor to break the 1% barrier. When I ran against Ed Rendell in 2002, I got 41,000 votes, an increase of 25–30%, broke my own record. I expect this year to more than break my own record, and my primary goal is to win party status for the Libertarian Party. As the only statewide candidate running for office in 2014, it is up to the governor and lieutenant governor candidate to get that magic number, which is 2% of the highest vote getters total in the election. And that would qualify us as a minor party in Pennsylvania, and that would give us the right to register Libertarian, get a check-off box on the voter registration forms, appoint people directly into special elections, a monopoly on the Libertarian name, all sorts of benefits that come along with party status. That was my goal in 2002, and I achieved it. That's my goal again this year, and I fully expect to achieve it. And also, I'm going to blow away my own record from 2002.
Just a quick follow-up. So neither of you have a goal to free minds. Is that what
Well,
I'm
that
hearing?
happens as you're going along.
Well, I'm just wondering. I didn't hear anybody mention anything about.
Steve Baker.
I'm just curious. I
Yes.
just kind of hoping that might be something of interest to a candidate, but maybe not.
It happens.
Well, that's all we have time for.
Yes, no question.
You know, on my Facebook page, Jim, on my Facebook page, somebody posted something there saying that he met me back in 2002 when he was too young to vote. And he's thrilled that I'm running again because I introduced him to libertarian thought. He had never heard of it before. So there it is right there. And Obi, wasn't I one of the first ones that you saw too?
Absolutely.
There you go, right here. Obi Mild, former chair of the Montgomery County Libertarians. It's the same
Happy
one.
birthday.
Can I ask you a quick yes, no question?
Gentlemen,
Quick yes, no question.
What's up?
Should I have to ask government permission to buy one of these and carry one of these?
No.
I got one myself,
Good. We're all on the
That's
same
not an
page.
answer.
and 3 ARs.
Article 1, Section 21, you have the
Right, to keep them, yeah,
Right?
yep.
There are.
Okay,
Except for me, I don't.
off the podium, go on.
I have no
Quit
right
pontificating.
because I am a fellow.
Yeah, you're the fellow
Actually, I think you
contingent.
have a right.
You're a prohibited person?
Thank you. By the way, if anyone wants to volunteer, I've got a sign-up sheet.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Whoa, and my battery didn't die.
You're gonna